Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Take Back Phoenix podcast, episode 2. I am excited to have our guest, Michael Delprete, running for Phoenix City Council District 6, and also the executive director of ASREA. Mike, thanks for coming today.
Thanks for having me, Matt. I appreciate it. Yes, Mike Delprete, executive director of the Arizona Real Estate Investors Association. We're like a trade association where we serve the real estate investor to provide safe, clean, affordable housing through education, networking, market information, government affairs. So we've been doing that throughout the entire state for the last 23 years.
Wow, and how long have you been a part of ASREA for?
I actually, that's where everyone starts as a real estate investor. I started 15 years ago when I started my career in the real estate business.
I guess you've learned a lot over the last 15 years coming from the beginning to now, or?
Oh man, tremendous wealth of knowledge, man, and that's what's great about community, and being around other like-minded people and other real estate investors and real estate agents. You just learn from everybody, right?
And you said your network is now 2,000 people, right, or a little over 2,000?
Yeah, we have just a little under 2,000 active members.
And where was that 15 years ago?
I wasn't running it, so I don't know.
Okay,
I have no idea.
But I'm guessing that you've accelerated the growth in the last 15 years.
I appreciate the value. Yes, we have grown. So, in short, ASREA was founded 23 years ago by Alan Langston. I've been a member for 15 years. 8 years ago, I started actually teaching there, right, and educating other members. And then about 5 years ago, I took over the organization. Awesome. So since then, we've grown about 20% each year.
So if I had some questions about housing and affordable housing, you would be the guy to ask, right?
Of course.
So that's one of the reasons I'm really actually excited to have you on the podcast today, and why I'm also excited that you're running for Phoenix City Council, because affordable housing has been a real big issue, not just in our city and our state, but across the country. And we saw, during the presidential run, it was a real big topic as far as younger generations trying to be first-time homeowners. And so I really just wanted to kind of dive into the topic of affordable housing with you and really start at the high level for people that really don't know anything. And so one of the first questions that I just wanted to kind of come off with you at is interest rates. So you always hear this narrative that, the feds are going to lower the interest rates, or the interest rates are too high, and somehow that has some correlation to the cost of your house or mortgage rates. And I just want to ask an expert directly, is there a direct correlation? If so, what is that correlation? When the federal interest rates go down, does that mean we have a better opportunity to purchase a home at a lower cost, or?
No, then it would not help you buy a home at a lower cost. So if the Fed's lowering the rates, that doesn't mean it's actually going to trickle down to us and our interest rates when we buy a home. So an interest rate is pretty much like the cost of borrowing money. So most people, when they buy a house, they're more or less thinking about the payment versus the cost of the house, right? Obviously, they go together. So that's the main thing, is the cost of borrowing money for when you buy a house. That's what the interest rate is for.
So how does the interest rate directly impact your monthly bill, like at the end of the day? And I just want to just clarify this for people that may not know. So we have your monthly mortgage rate, right? And when the interest rate, and actually let's take a step back real quick. What is the interest rate today?
It hovers around 6 to 6.5%.
Okay, so let's say it goes from 6.5% to 3% tomorrow. What impact does that have?
Okay, well, first and foremost, it'll cut the mortgage payment in half, right? So it'll be more affordable, right? So what that does, so right now, average median home price in Phoenix is around $450,000, right? So at 6%, you have your payment, and then if it goes to 3%, it gets cut in half. Right now, it's not as affordable right now to buy a house. It's a slower market. It's somewhat a buyer's market in certain areas of Phoenix right now. So what will happen is the payment will be cheaper, so that will entice people on the sidelines to go in and be more active to buy.
Now, I'm going to take this a step back just to make sure I understand 100%. So we have a federal interest rate. It's 6.5% today. It goes to 3% tomorrow. The direct impact is that as someone who wants to buy a home,
yes, general consumer,
I have a down payment, but there's still money left over that I need to be able to afford the purchase of the home. So then I have to go to a lender.
So you're asking for other costs. What other costs are involved? So first and foremost, So the rate goes down, right? So that means just the cost of borrowing money is cheaper, and your mortgage payment will be cheaper, which will have people interested in buying a house, right? Because it'll be more affordable. So now there's other costs around buying a house, such as, first your payment, it's principal and interest. Then there's taxes and insurance. So we call it PITI. So that'll be your total payment. So when you're looking to buy a house, you're also going to have a down payment, right? Depending on the type of bank loan, there's FHA, which is like government financing. There's conventional financing, right? So it could go anywhere from, depending on your situation, everyone's different when the bank pre-qualifies you. So you always got to go out and get pre-qualified from a lender to get pre-approved by they'll check your W-2, your work history, your credit. They'll see how much money you make, and they'll say, hey, you can borrow $450,000 at this interest rate, which will be, your PITI will be X. Now the family's going, can I afford that? And that's part of the concern right now, is like not too many people, when they see that payment, they're like, oh man. Plus you need a down payment. It could go anywhere from 3.5%, depending on the loan product, up to 25% on an investor loan product, right? So usually it's around that 3.5% to 5%. Yes, there's programs that might be out there for down payment assistance and stuff, but just expect to have that down payment. When you buy a house, there's closing costs. There's inspection. You might get a home inspector and appraisal. So there's a cost to close on the property, down payment, and then obviously your monthly payment.
What's the lowest interest rates there has ever been? What period of time was that? And do you think that we'll get back to those record low interest rates anytime soon?
I want to say there was like some low twos out there during the COVID time frame.
2020,
yeah, that's when all the frenzy happened, right? Because the rates dropped so low, it was basically like giving away free money, right? So it's like, so everyone jumps into the business. Our real estate is supply and demand. So it's like everyone wanted to capture that low rate. So everyone's rushing to the housing market, which then what happens? Everyone raises prices because there's so much demand. So what will happen? Don't know, right? So I guess I know you mentioned bringing in a new chairman. What will they do? Yes, there's the media that says, yes, we want them lower, but will it ever happen? We don't know. So all you could do is just pay attention to what's going on. If it does drop drastically lower like that again, we'll probably see the same thing reoccur, right? It's great we need it to go lower so the average person can get housing. I love ownership and property rights, so it's like I would love everyone should have a chance to buy a house. And a lot of people didn't have that opportunity during COVID because they were getting outbid, or from bigger institutions, out-of-state buyers. Just
one thing that I've heard you in your previous speeches that really resonated with me when you were talking to the audience was, the significance to home ownership and how owning a home can build out a community. And I just wanted to ask you if you can kind of talk about that if you remember that speech that you were giving, and what is the importance of having people own homes versus rent homes, and how does that manifest into better neighborhoods and better communities and ultimately a better city long term?
Yeah, no, everyone should buy a house. Right now, so in my world, in the real estate world, there's a lot of talk or media or agenda of saying, just rent. Go travel, be free. Don't worry about all this. It's expensive. It's a headache. That's got to be the worst advice that I've ever heard in my life, man. And people are saying, like, I know we'll probably talk about corporations buying rentals and stuff like that, but like, you must buy a house, all right? Buy a house, it will change your life. Just think about this. Not in every market, but majority of, for Phoenix, since we're just talking about Phoenix, houses double every 10 to 12 years. So if you're 20 years old, 21 years old, you got decent credit, and you have a job, 2 years of job history, right? And let's say you buy a house. You're 20 years old. When you're 30, that $400,000 house could be $800,000. Right? That right there. So what also happens is when you buy a house, you're paying the mortgage down, and then it's also appreciating. Yes, it's going to go like this over the years, but it's a long game business. So it's going to go like this. This right here is equity. That's where the wealth is. So why would we tell somebody not to go get that, right? And in the, through the history of America, like some people, groups of people didn't have access to that, right? Now everyone has this fair shot at getting that piece right there. It will change your life. If you're 20 years old and you buy a house and you're settling in, you have your first kid, maybe you're 30 years old. Imagine being able to go, wow, my family could live in this house affordably, because right now in my neighborhood, I bought my house, was it '08? So it's been, what, 15 years, whatever. My mortgage payment, I brag about this, is $1,300.
Wow.
Okay, yeah. PITI, like we learned, right? So now the rent in my neighborhood, it's anywhere from $2,500 to $3,000, right? I can now pass that to my son, right? When for his family, because rents always go up, whether it's slow pace, fast pace, they're gonna go up, whether you like it or not. So why not buy a house? I'm not telling you to buy 10 houses. I'm telling you to buy one house, lock in that 30-year fixed, right? Might be high to you now, right? If based on your job and the bank allowing you to borrow money, you obviously can afford it. So buy that house now and wait. It will do wonders in the future. It will change the trajectory of your life.
And it will, because what you were kind of talking about before was, if you're not renting a home and it's actually a home that you own and you're not planning to be there for just a year or 2 years or even an extended lease of 3 years, but you plan to be there for 10 or 15 or 20 years, then I think you probably care more about the quality of your neighborhood, who your neighbors are. You're probably going to pay a little bit more attention to your local village planning committee meetings and what sort of new development is going on. You're going to want to make sure your neighborhood is clean because you have, like you said, an equitable interest in the future of your neighborhood.
Oh, when you own something, you respect it more. So if you have, I was doing business in Cleveland, Ohio, and half the city is owned by investors, wow. Right? So I'm not saying the investors didn't care. There's bad investors out there, but like when a city doesn't control half their property, so they started making changes because I have property out there. So I've seen what they did, and I'm gonna get off on a tangent now. It's like but the way they approached it was they were targeting investors. I don't know if it's a good word to use, but they were going after investors that own property that live out of state. I would sit on these Zoom court because I filed my LLC. Well, I have an LLC here in Arizona, and I did business when I bought the house in Cleveland in another state with an Arizona LLC. I was supposed to file as a foreign entity, right? It's like $50, $60. Okay. But when I refinanced the house 6 months after owning it, the bank made me do it. So my property had the foreign entity thing. The city called me and said, "Hey, when you didn't have a foreign entity when you bought this house." So I was like, "Yeah, but I fixed it, No, we're going to retro that. You're facing, $10,000 fine or 5 years in jail."
Wow.
And then they put a project manager on my properties, really? And they just started going through everything with a fine-tooth comb. No complaints, no problems with the tenants, no one's mad, everyone's happy. And for 2 years I was in court following just the direction of the city, right? And there's on me every week. I had to file a report to them, right? So I'm starting to see some of that here, and it kind of gets a little nerve-wracking, right? So, but I'm okay, meaning I think there should be more ownership, right? Going back to the ownership, because people care about their neighborhoods more. And with the agenda of, hey, let's be a rental nation, right? There's not going to be that. Those neighborhoods will change. They really will.
That was a good tangent, man. Thank you.
Yeah, I got more if it's about real estate, man.
So one thing that I wanted to talk to you about that kind of is a red flag to me at least, and I think it should be to a lot of people in our city and across our country, is this new paradigm of build to rent. Mm-hmm. So can you kind of just tell our audience what is build to rent? When did it kind of start? How prevalent is it? Is it growing a lot right now? Do we see it in the city of Phoenix? Is it something that we should be worried about?
Yeah, build to rent. Basically, it's like a hedge fund or a corporation who just builds a master plan community of 50 houses, hundreds of houses, and it's a business model for them where now we could families could rent the house from the corporation, right? That's really what it is. So it's just a community of homes that are all for rent, not for sale.
And is that a bad thing or a good thing?
I mean, there's a lot of different ways to look at it, right? So it's providing more housing supply, right? Arizona over the last decade built half of what they normally build, right? So we need to build more. We need more houses. If there's more houses, more supply, less demand, prices could settle, right? So I look at it like a couple things. More supply, good. We need it, right? It gives that family that's been maybe sometimes people just don't want a house. Not maybe not everybody wants to live or have that ownership, right? And that's okay. So if they don't want the house, but maybe they don't want to be in an apartment anymore, right? Yeah, they could rent a general house from anybody, but hey, I can move from this apartment or this old, outdated single family and go into this brand new community, right? Backyard, new AC, new everything, new kitchen cabinets. Like, why not? So I think that things like that are helpful. But what I think is the lack of education on ownership. I want to have more paths to ownership for the city of Phoenix. So people miss out on that part. So it would also go to, what is the city allowing, right? Is there more of lean towards letting big corporations build more than owner type houses where owners can occupy? I think that's there, right? So I think there needs to be a balance. So it was the build to rent is big nationwide, heavier in certain markets. Phoenix and real estate, anything that's gonna be new is tested here. Phoenix is like the haven of housing, right? Whether it's a tech company wanting to try a product, Zillow, or anyone trying to do a real estate product, whatever it is, or
casitas in the backyard.
Yeah, it usually gets tested here, right? So about the build to rent, I think just like too much of anything can be bad, right? So I think a balance is good, and giving people an opportunity to get to ownership it would be the key.
Yeah, I think one of the things that worries me is when we go back to home ownership, right? And especially the younger generation struggling to be homeowners. I don't have the exact numbers, but I want to say that there's these huge corporations out there like BlackRock that I think own like 50% of the market, right, in the United States, from what I've heard. And it's kind of scary, right, when you have like this really high up hedge fund or corporation that's in control of so many properties across our country. And supply and demand, like you said, is great, but if you're taking all the home ownership supply away, we might be able to have affordable houses that we can rent, but we never have the chance to have what you talked about, which is that equity. And so I think there is a balance. And, for our viewers, the city of Phoenix, which recently approved a project in North Phoenix for TSMC. So there's this big development going on off the I-17 up in the area where the TSMC development is. And I know one of the home manufacturers is Pulte Homes. And I looked into them, and they're actually having some of those neighborhoods developed with build-to-rent communities. And so, to me, it's just something that I think we really need to be aware of what's going on, right? And one of the things that I wanted to ask you about as an affordable housing expert and someone that potentially is going to be on the city council.
I will be.
Yes, is going to be on the city council. Will be on the city council. Thank you for correcting me. I love the confidence. Hey, I'm a Phoenix resident. Mike, I'm trying to own a home. Now you're going to approve this development and they're all going to be built to rents? Shame on you, Mike. I want to have more opportunities. I want to see where this balance is. What are you going to do for me? How can you respond to a resident that's super concerned about that? What would you say?
So a resident that's concerned about a build to rent coming into their neighborhood, there's a bigger picture there, right? Like, I'm not in the weeds of the city council, right? So when I go into business, start business, or maybe buy a business, whatever it is, you have an idea of what needs to be done in business to make something work and to get a result. But until you really get into the weeds and look at it and go, okay, this is what I'm dealing with. Like, there's probably stuff the city has information on where if a resident came up to me right now, I can't answer, right? Like if TSMC is so huge and it's so big, there's always gonna be like entertainment districts. There's people flooding to the area. You're gonna need housing, right? And that's why I was to say something. I know it, but so I would have to. Going back to balance, right? So if the neighbor is concerned, of course, listen to the neighbor, hear what they have to say, and obviously my job would be to work for them. So if the neighborhood does not want that there, I have to work on their behalf to do that, right? Yeah, yeah, of course. But I don't know I just know it's a big thing. So we have to say, my question would be, is the city building owner homes that people could occupy? Right? Is there just as many of those going up to give people the opportunity to live by TSMC as well?
Well, I want to ask you one specific question about continuing on the TSMC development. So I looked into it, and they're actually, and this is kind of where I have an issue with government. I'm one of those big believers that we need less government, not more of it. They put this stipulation in these homes that are being developed out there that if you have a home community, and in that community, whether it's a gated community or whatever, if there's a centralized pool, you can't get a permit to have a pool in your backyard. That's something that I disagree with, and I was just wondering if you were on the city, when you were on the city council.
So for the build to rent?
I don't know if it's for the build to rent, but there's a particular zoning of houses that are being developed, and one of the rules is that if you develop housing in this community, and that community has a centralized pool, then none of the houses are permitted to have their own individual pools in the backyard.
Got it. So is there an HOA?
I don't know. That's a great question.
What's the rules? Right, like you know what I mean? If a private company's building these homes and there's rules to this community.
Well, this is the city of Phoenix putting those regulations on the zoning.
Okay.
So my question is, when you're elected to the city council, is that something that you would support, or if people like myself would say, I don't agree with that, where do you fall on that?
No, property rights, like it's my house.
Absolutely. Okay. There we go.
Sure,
there we go.
Yeah. I was just want to make sure I was clear where you're going with that. No, no, it's my house. If I want to put a pool in there, you can put a pool in there. That's right.
They're doing ridiculous things too. Like I think another regulation is you have to have a monarch butterfly garden in each new development, as part of some progressive payback. I don't know who their donors are that have influenced them to make this. It seems like a really ridiculous rule, though, that you would say we're going to approve development of homes, but you have to make sure you have a monarch butterfly garden in each of your neighborhoods. What do you think about that?
I don't think the city should tell us what we need in our house or our neighborhood.
Do you like monarch butterflies?
To tell the truth, I don't even know what a monarch butterfly is. So I would look it up and research it, but I don't know why they would do that or want to do that. The questions that come to my mind are like, who's going to maintain it? Who's going to pay for it? Who's going to fix it? You know what I mean? Where's that money coming from? How's this happen? How's this work? That's how I would base my decision.
Yeah, I'm going on a tangent. It's actually some progressive thing. When I was knocking on doors canvassing, I actually saw some Democrat that had a monarch butterfly thing. So I guess it goes back to some left-wing ideology. Anyways, I digress.
You got me off guard on that
So
one.
I want to take you back. We're going to swing back. Affordable housing. Michael Delprete, ASREA real estate expert. We are dealing with an affordable housing crisis in our city and our country, and I know over the last year or two we're starting to see some relief, as you talked about, supply and demand. Mm-hmm. But a big topic for people, especially in the city of Phoenix, is affordable housing. One of the things that we really want to ask the leaders of our city council is, what are you going to do when you are on the city council to make housing more affordable?
To make housing more affordable, I think, one, we do need to build more. Okay. I think with my real estate background, I can negotiate. I understand the items to look for when it comes to building houses, renovating houses, buying, selling. So I think the negotiation and the discipline around that, I understand. Another problem is when it comes to building, having the balance of the right product. As we've talked about before, the city was celebrating 50,000 new units built. We looked it up. It was less than 22% of those properties were affordable in workforce.
So the city of Phoenix had an initiative by 2030 to build 50,000 affordable housing units.
Yes.
But you looked into it, and only 22% of those
were affordable or workforce.
Wow.
So the rest are luxury apartments. So one thing, it goes back to, what are we building? Right, so you got to build. You got to know what the city needs. Do we need luxury apartments? I know we don't need them right now because they're vacant. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know what else to say, right? So we need what people need: affordable housing. They need a place to live. They need a roof over their head. So, another thing we're noticing in real estate is like the multi-generational living, right? Like more families have to live together just to get by. So how do we relieve that? So I think you have to build more, you have to cut costs, right? How do you cut costs? Like last year, the city increased impact fees. They doubled them, right? So it's going to cost the businesses more to build, right? So how can we do things to relieve that? It's a big picture, right? So it's like even going into the city's budget, how they were in a deficit in the 39 million general fund, right? So it's like, why is this happen, right? So it's like a big picture. I can go on many tangents, but like, so here's an specific example for housing. I have a personal one and a friend. Just with this, okay. I'll go with my personal and a developer friend. He usually builds like one house at a time. Okay. Wanted to build a triplex in a lower income area. The city wanted him to do $150,000 in sewer lines, like infrastructure around the property, right? So they're like, well, if we have to do these city infrastructure building pieces, the numbers no longer make sense on the property to build a triplex. So they revert to single family. Two affordable units gone. So you get what I'm saying? How do we fix that, right? My personal situation, I have a triplex in the Sunny Slope area, affordable area, right? We never max out rents. We even make it livable for people to live there because there's a school across the street, there's a park across the street, right? It gives someone an opportunity to live under their means and enjoy the neighborhood. And now what happened with me is the previous owner in like the 80s split the lot, right? He did it through Maricopa County. At the time, I guess Phoenix didn't have lot splits. So that's fine. Okay, we'll get all that corrected. The reason this came up is I had a small gas leak in my gas line. So Southwest shuts the gas off. Now I got to go get a permit, fine. Fix the line. Southwest comes back, turns it on, everything should be good. There's a red star on my property, meaning the lot split was incorrect. Cool, let's fix it. Take full responsibility. So they say, no, you need to do certain items in regards to getting the lot split done and some other items to bring everything up to code. So I'm like, okay, what's that? Well, I have to build a city sidewalk around my house.
You have to build
I have to build a city sidewalk. I have to get new sewer caps around the sewer. I do have to, yes.
Thank you.
And I get all that. So everything that's in regards to the city that's wrong about my property is on the outskirts of my property. Nothing's wrong with my property. Like so it's been 6 months. It's gonna be up to $50,000 in fees, engineers, and architects, and all that stuff. And it's just sitting there vacant. I could literally have a line of people that would rent that thing out for me right now. You know what I mean? So how many other people are dealing with this? Just two quick scenarios. There's three. That could have been two new housing units plus mine. There's three right there. 3 families could be living in affordable housing right now. So how can we work all that out and clean all that up?
That sounds great. So it sounds like one of the main primary benefits to having someone like yourself on the city council would be that, from what I'm hearing is your experience is that you have real experience with all kinds of certain nuances with home ownership and what it takes to develop, and you're passionate about it, and so you know exactly what we need to fix. And I think, as they say, knowing is half the battle, right? And it kind of comforts me to know that we could have someone like you potentially on the city council that has that experience and really does know where we have to attack it to actually make, real change in our city. So I think that's cool.
And if you think about it, like housing's a major issue, right? Housing in any city is like the most important thing in our lives. Maslow's theory, food, shelter, water, right? Like we need shelter. So I feel like if a city is not doing well in that area, that's a sick city.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it needs
So
some medicine.
Is Phoenix a sick city?
Well, I'm not saying overall like that. I love Phoenix. I think we're great. We're evolving. We're growing.
I'm putting you on the spot, man.
No,
Yeah.
but sometimes there's growing pains. It's fair to say, right? So we need to, with this growth that's happening, people love Arizona, right? The whole South, what they call it, the belt, whatever, you know what I'm saying? So it's like people are moving to these areas, and it's like we got to keep up with that, and we got to make the right decision. So when housing's unaffordable, the budget's in a deficit, taxes went up, they increased the cash value of your property, so your property taxes go up. All these things hurt the residents' pockets, which makes the residents hard to thrive and buy and spend money in the community and buy houses and shop, you know, so because they're getting hit from every angle.
So on a scale of 1 to 10,
Oh boy, where's this going?
affordability in Phoenix and our current city council's ability to manage the affordability issue. Scale of 1 to 10, what do you give them?
I mean, all I can say, I'm trying not to be like a politician, like go around. To give you a number, well, I would probably handling it, 10 being great.
10 being great.
Or
our
I gotta make
city
sure.
is super affordable. Our council, there's no regulations. It's not difficult to get things done. You don't feel frustrated as a developer or as a real estate agent. 0 being, we are awful. Everything is not affordable. People are pulling their hair out dealing with our city.
Yeah, man, I would probably give it a 5.
5, right in the middle. So 50%. So if we're judging on grade scale wise, that's an F minus.
Yeah, however you want to put it, man. There is room for improvement. I'm concerned about it because it is one of the most important things is our housing. People deserve that opportunity to own a house, and I think they should, man.
Amen.
Yeah.
Michael Delprete, a real estate expert, as RIA, and future Phoenix City Councilman for District 6. I want to ask you one question that I think a lot of our younger generation would be interested to hear, which is, I'm 18 years old, 19, 20. What are the steps I need to take to become a first-time homeowner? What is the average down payment that I should be looking to save? What is the average cost of a house in Arizona right now? How long is it going to take me to get what I need to save? Are there certain workarounds that I can do if I maybe don't have the opportunity to save that much money because the cost of living is really high right now? I know that you have a son. What do you teach him? What are the steps you give him to become a first-time homeowner?
You got to work. You got to have a job, right? So in order to buy a house, you have to have 2 years of work history and file your taxes and pay your taxes. You have to have a pretty good credit, probably above 600, 650-ish, give or take. That's the key component, right? And based on your income, the bank and the loan officer, they'll look at your profile, your borrower profile, and let you know how much you qualify for based on your income and your credit. So that's key right there. So a couple things you want to do is when you're younger, you might not have credit at all, right? You might not have bad credit, you might not have good credit, you just don't have credit because you're so young. So how can you do that, right? So you got to just, if you have a friend or family member that will be a co-signer, that will help you get maybe like a gas card or something simple, right? That's what I would try there. Or you can go to like Capital One, and they have those credit cards where you give them $250 and then you use it responsibly. Then before you know it, in 6 months, 7 months, you might get an offer from them. Hey, we'll give you a $500 credit limit. It's always about being responsible, right? So whatever you don't spend more than you make, right? That's the key. So just spend, pay it off, right? And over time, you'll start getting good credit. Sometimes what you can do, you'd probably have to look into the bank in your credit card and see if this is possible, but sometimes you can become an authorized user on like your parents or a family member, and then while they're spending, so you get to benefit off their good habits.
So
right?
we want to focus on getting your work history up. You need
and
to
paying
get
your taxes.
Get your credit up. What about down payment? What kind of down payment should I be looking to? What is the percentage that I need to kind of figure out for a home? If a home costs $400,000 or $300,000, how much should I aspire to save?
So now it's always right because you want that. It's always about the payment, right? Like you want the affordable payment. So obviously, the more you put down, the lower your balance will be, which will be lower payment. But not everyone's in that situation. So FHA is around 3.5% down, and it can go up to 5 or 10%. Once again,
just to cut you off, sorry for everybody watching, FHA is
It's a government, it's HUD, government loan. So, so with that, so now, if you can put more, great. If you can't, 3.5%, right? What you'll do there is you can ask your loan officer or your agent, and sometimes there's government programs or there's grants, right? So those might be possible to help you put less down out of your pocket, but really you're becoming a homeowner, right? Like you're not, of course you want to come out of pocket less you can, not waste and spend money that you don't have to, but you got to be responsible. You got to work. You got to save up money, right?
Well, yeah. So I guess the question is how much money, or what you're saying that the typical path for a first-time homeowner is to go through the FHA? Is that traditionally what you'll see? Is that sort of the 80-20 rule? Is if you're a first-time homeowner, explore FHA, and if you're fortunate enough where you have a down payment, then you can forego
because it's the lowest, right? And but also it's like, you want to have your loan officer shop around. They'll look at your profile and they'll put the right products in front of you.
So loan officer. So I don't know anything about loan officer. I'm 18 years old, 19 years old. Where do I find a loan officer?
Man, any bank. You can go to any traditional bank, Chase, Bank of America. You can go to local credit unions, right? So that's where I would start. Then there's also brokerages. There's people that shop around. A broker would, take your profile, and they have relationships with banks all around the nation, and they'll just kind of like insurance or whatever it is. They'll shop all these different banking systems and see which kind of products they can bring to the table for you.
So there's this narrative right now in our country, right, that it's difficult for people to become first-time homeowners because of the cost of housing and because of the down payment that you may need. Now you just talked about, there's opportunities for FHA. What is your opinion on that narrative that it's more difficult today than it was 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago to become a first-time homeowner?
It's a big narrative. It's like houses are still being bought and sold every single day. Thousands of homes a month are being sold, right? So it's like, it's possible, right? So it all boils down to the person and what efforts are you putting in to become a homeowner?
So in other words, the American dream is still alive. You still have
Yes.
just as much opportunity as you had 10, 20 years ago. If you're willing to put in the work and if you're willing to follow the process, there are homes out there that you can own today.
Yes, the American dream is alive, and I support it, and I believe everyone should participate in it. And what, a lot of things that we talk about at ISREA is there is, though, the pressure of maybe government getting too involved in the real estate business, as well as maybe even the big corporations. You mentioned, I think it was BlackRock, or how they want to own 50% of housing, right? So what does that do when you have government making it harder and corporations buying up all the housing? It makes it harder for the mom and pops, right? Us.
Yeah.
And so you do have to educate yourself, and kind of, I do at ISREA tell people to really start paying attention to who you vote for. Like as we grow up, it's like, don't talk about religion, politics, and money. As you get older,
or sports, right?
yeah, right. So it's like as we're older, that's all we talk about. So it's like here we go. Yeah, right. Like, so just politics obviously and voting is much bigger than real estate. I know we talked about real estate today, but like, know who you're voting for. If you're really wanting to invest in real estate or be in the housing world and understand where it's at, you got to see the bills that are being proposed and being passed, and there's like the items I dealt with in Cleveland, stuff I'm dealing with in Phoenix. Like, who you vote for and put in place affects your opportunity in housing.
And so that's a great segue into the controversial question for the Take Back Phoenix podcast.
More controversy.
Yeah,
What's
more
going
controversy.
on?
That's what we're all about here, right? No, I digress. So, President Trump.
Okay.
There's been some narratives going back and forth about potential bills or executive orders and how that may or may not impact HUD funding in the future, and ultimately the market for affordability. Someone like yourself who is deeply invested in the real estate industry in Arizona and across the country, as you said, you have homes in Chicago. What is your thoughts on President Trump and how he's handled the economy? I guess at the high level, my question would be, yes or no, is Trump been having a positive impact on affordable housing? And as a real estate agent, are you happy that he's president, or are you disappointed with things in his leadership related to real estate specifically?
So, not a real estate agent. Just got to disclose. so, so, there's different ways, right? So, am I satisfied with how he's doing it? So, if, like, I look at it as an entrepreneur, when you want to try, when something's not working that well, right? You have to try things. I always say throwing spaghetti against the wall, right? You got to get the best people in those areas around you, get and then try things. Not everything's going to work, right? So what I feel that he's done, one thing that is affecting real estate is the tariffs, right? You know what I mean? Am I against them? No, I'm not against them. But it's like, hey, lumber, materials, when we go to fix a house, build a house, whatever it is, that is a part of the equation. The cost of building goes up, right? So the cost of supplies that we use, eggs and right, the eggs scenario online, right? So it's like all that goes up. So that does make it hard. However, if the true intention and result that is promised, sometimes you got to put up with it for a bit to get through the hard times.
Short-term loss
for the result to come.
gain.
Nothing happens quick, man. Nothing happens quick, right? And not everything works out. you know what I mean? Like it's.
No, so I know you said you're not a real estate agent, right?
Correct.
But you're part of an organization that helps train, and you talk to a lot of real estate
Meaning
agents.
investor, like I buy and sell rentals and stuff. Yeah.
So I asked you what your opinion was, and thank you for kind of unpacking that a little bit. What is the vibe that you get from real estate agents in Arizona when it comes to President Trump and how he's managed the economy as it relates to affordable housing?
Oh, in my world, I don't see negative feedback. You know.
So no news is good news.
I like the fact that you have a forward thinker, problem solution type person in the industry or leading us. That's confidence. You know, so I think people are confident of what he's doing.
It's awesome. So we are optimistic about President Trump and how he's handling the economy. Great.
Yeah, man.
All right, Michael Delprete, Executive Director of ASREA and future City Councilman for District 6. I wanted to ask you about a bill that was passed back in May of 24, HB 2721, with the intent to increase housing supply, sort of to address the affordable housing crisis at the time, and I know there's seeing some relief here, but we still want to increase our supply. That law actually became into effect in 2026 of this year. So can you just talk to our audience about what that bill is, what impact it may or may not have? What's your opinion as an expert on that bill?
Yeah, so the idea of middle housing. So basically this bill, from a mile from center city, you can take a single family zoned lot and build up to a 4-unit apartment building on it. So duplex, triplex, fourplex. So the idea there is it's also in larger cities, 75,000 population or more, and you'd be able to build, literally take the house away or take an infill lot that's vacant and build 2, 3, 4 units. So that's going to increase housing supply. So I think that's a good thing, right? Now, all the rules, is it still a little murky on exactly everything that can be built? Yeah. So for instance, I know in Central Phoenix, like where is Central City, right? Where's the mile start, right? But let's in general say it's cover like this historic districts north of, around McDowell and Canto and everything. So I know those areas are upset or nervous that, hey, you have this character of this community can be taken away now, right? So that, I know they have issues there, so there's a concern there. Then there's other parts, maybe if you went south of Washington, I know it's a little bit older neighborhood, I think that can help that area as well, right? So
This is the downtown Phoenix area?
yeah, because you're going a mile from center city, so you're going to build more housing supply, right?
So there's concern about the historic neighborhoods being torn apart.
Yeah, there's that talk. Then it's like, hey, I watched one of the district, or excuse me, the community meetings on YouTube, and the setbacks. They're saying, hey, they can build up 2 stories. It's only 3 feet from the back wall, and like the neighbors could look at each other. So there's like those concerns in the neighborhood that you got to hear out. So I don't know the clarity behind all that yet. So there's those type of items. But yeah, it's going to bring more housing. Then you also have to look at it as, well, that's going to bring more wear and tear into the neighborhood, right? So if it's normally a single family living in one house, and then now it's 4 units, right? You have 4 different families, 4 to 8 different cars, right? So you're going to bring more wear and tear into the community, right? And parking, maybe the streets might become more congested. So what are the ideas and plans for that? We have to see what the city.
So it's not just financial cost, but there's also cosmetic cost and just quality of life cost.
Yeah,
that you're impacted
there's gonna be more people in a smaller area. And another thing everyone has to think about is, okay, are they even going to be affordable?
That's what I was just going to say. Is there any guarantee what's written into the bill says that if I take down this house and build a duplex, that they're not just going to sell them for the same thing they would sell a house, but now they're just going to triple their profits?
Yeah, the type of developer will probably go in there that's going to build a fourplex is going to probably build some high-end fancy thing in the middle of a canto, right? And that's not going to be, $1,300 rents.
So that's going to lead to gentrification then, right? Where people that are potentially born and raised in those neighborhoods will no longer be able to afford living in those neighborhoods.
Yeah, depending on what neighborhood and where it lands, yeah, I could see that happening.
So not to put you on the hot seat, but would you have not supported the bill?
Yeah, for the sake of more housing and finding creative ways to do it, I would support it. And this was something that was brought up through the state. So, and Phoenix had up until I think it was January to accept it or not, right? Or then there's obviously penalties if you don't or some sort. So, once again, going back into maybe bringing the skill of negotiation or planning and understanding real estate, if I knew more, and like I said, all the details aren't even laid out currently, what's in the details and how do we best, whatever they give us to work with, I think it's going to depend on how the council handles what they have to work with.
So what I'm hearing is you appreciate the spirit and the intent of the bill, but the devil's in the details, and we'd have to take a little bit of a microscope to those. And if you had your chance in hindsight, you would like to have been part of those negotiations. And I think just from hearing you out, having you part of those negotiations would have probably made, I would have felt a little bit more optimistic and comfortable about the bill knowing someone like you had a chance to weigh in on it.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
So now we're going to get into a real controversial topic. Just this week, the city of Phoenix passed or let me take a step back. On Monday, the mayor of Phoenix, Mayor Kate Gallego, sent a letter to the city manager, Ed Zerker. And in this letter, it was essentially the city of Phoenix's response to recent reports that ICE is going to start descending on Phoenix. And in this letter, she expressed her concerns about how Trump's not going after the worst of the worst, and they're wanting to do something about it, and she laid out 5 directives. The following day, the city of Phoenix held a special study work session where they passed a motion to approve these directives, or at least research them for the next 45 days and figure out how they can implement them. One of the directives was specifically to start data collection with, quote, the intent to investigate crimes committed by federal agents. This is effectively making the city use taxpayer dollars to help protect illegal immigrants and at the same time adopt policy to investigate ICE. The reason I ask you this question is because the person who seconded the motion on the city council was your opponent, Kevin Robinson, who is also planning to run for mayor in 2028 and was a former Republican, now converted to Democrat. So when you're elected to the city council, or if you were on the city council, would you have seconded this motion? Would you have supported this directive?
Got it. So part of that, right, is I truly believe in research and studying. I feel like I'm starting to notice that pattern of it's always pushed off to research, right? If I'm hitting right, I know this just happened, so I haven't read into it. So no, I support ICE. You know what I mean? And I don't think it should be these unclear, indecisive decisions. right? So it's like, we're the fifth largest city in the country. I think we should know where we're at and what we need to do. So I think a decision should just be made of where are we going with it, right? Because even you said, I think that you said a lot of Democrats were there yelling. No one was happy. Like, you know what I mean? Everyone's like, what's going on?
Well,
So it's like,
to clear, because the progressives, and this was interesting, there was this faction of progressives, right? And they actually shamed the mayor out of the city chambers. She had to actually hold a 10-minute recess and leave because they were saying shame, shame, shame. They actually wanted to take it a step further. Instead of having our taxpayer dollars go to protect illegal immigrants and investigate ICE, they wanted us to fork the bill to pay for attorney fees for people that are arrested or investigated by ICE. So they actually literally wanted to spend our money to have them have attorneys and get legal support if you're an illegal immigrant.
wow.
Yeah, and so Kevin Robinson, former Republican, he seconded the motion, which was ultimately voted in favor of it. And so I think it's just really important for people in District 6 to hear that. It sounds like you said you do support ICE, so I'm guessing that you wouldn't have also seconded the motion like your opponent Kevin Robinson did.
Correct. So there's law that we have to follow. That's how societies operate. You know what I mean? They're there. So if we need to, if people don't like the law, obviously we got to work on changing the law, right? So in my situation, I have two areas of my family where I'm familiar with this. So what happened with me, like my wife, she's first generation Mexican. So her whole entire family came from Mexico and came here, and they all did it the proper way, right? So they're proud to be here, and they followed the rules. Simple as that. No, there's no headaches, no questions, no comments, concerns.
Follow the rules.
That's it. So, and then on another part of me, when it comes to immigration, is my sister, her husband's from Jordan. So they left 10 years ago back to Jordan. So they self-deported, and then now when they wanted to come back, they started the process quite a few years ago. I sponsored them. My dad sponsored them. The attorney fees. You know, he's just been waiting for like 4 years, right? So the whole system needs work, right? So like now my sister and her family are just came back, and now they're waiting for their father to come. That's tough, right? They're separated in their own way, and they're doing it properly, and they're respecting the system and just waiting for it to work, right? So that's like my scenario. So it's tough, right? Wow. I even had my sister-in-law and her husband, they're in England. He wasn't able to move back here due to immigration law. That's just life. That's the reality. That's their decisions. That's everyone's decisions. We have to accept it, work on it, work towards it, pray for the best. But like, we got to follow it. So I'm not out there getting in trouble or stopping the ICE or law enforcement. I'm not getting in the way of things, right? I could speak on it. I could talk about it just like I am on this podcast, but I'm not gonna, just make it a tough situation, man.
Wow, that's an interesting perspective. You know, you support ICE, but you also have family members that are immigrants and have immigrated over here, but they did it all the right way. And I think the one thing that I really appreciate and respect about your response is, out of all the people that I talk to about ICE and illegal immigration, it seems like every time I run into someone that has come here the right way, they're more upset about it than anybody else, because just to your point, they had to spend years going through the process. You know, they didn't just cut the line and come across legally. You know, they had to suffer through these hardships, and so why should anybody else get to cut the line and do something that they didn't have to go through? And so I think that's a very
we are citizens, and the people that have immigrated here, they are citizens, and we have to protect us.
You're absolutely right.
Right? You know what I mean? So it's like, I think that's just the way it is.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's important to note is that, I'm one of those people that's very outspoken about supporting ICE and about, deportations. And I feel that we, as United States citizens, have the right to have closed borders and allow people in at our discretion and at our pace. But I still want people to come in at our discretion and at our pace. I'm not opposed to immigration. I'm opposed to illegal immigration. And so I think it's really refreshing to hear from people like yourself that actually have people that have come the right way and have the courage to also speak out and say, hey, we supported ICE, we did it the right way, because There's a lot of left-wing media out there, the mainstream media.
That's a big part of it, man. It's like everyone just needs to calm down, right? Like don't want to see anybody get hurt ever in any situation. Doesn't matter anything. No one deserves to get hurt in these situations. But, when you have everyone just screaming and yelling and pushing. I saw a post on social media. A senator in Arizona was like, "Teenagers at the park, let's fight against ICE." It's like that message. One, I remember being like 13, 14. High school's teenagers are children, right? Like, and an adult is leading them to be against law enforcement, like that. That's scary. I remember when I was that age, didn't you need like permission slip to go anywhere?
Yeah.
Right?
You get suspended if you cut school. Now you can go out and protest, and it's okay, and it's like supported. It's crazy, right?
Both sides, guys. There's just people scream, and if you want to protest. Speak loud, yell loud as you want, have signs, do whatever you got to do over on the sidewalk, whatever. Please be safe. Don't interfere. The police officers are trained. I think it was like one of the Minnesota sheriffs or something, when I was watching the news, was like, when you crowd around a law enforcement officer, they're trained that they're being like attacked. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can't be careful, man. I just don't know what to say. Let's all be responsible here and calm it down. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I agree, man. Well, I know it's a controversial topic.
It
I know
is,
a lot of
man.
people don't even want to address it. So I have a lot of respect for you for willing to answer that question and kind of speak your position on that. So thank you very much. I do want to give you an opportunity for our audience. Michael Delprete, Executive Director as RIA, future Phoenix City Councilman in District 6. Just tell the audience, who is Michael Delprete? I don't want to. You don't have to go off, but your top 3, 5. What is Michael Delprete to you? Support the Blue. What are you about? If someone is watching this right now and they're considering voting for you in November, why should they vote for you? What's going to happen if Michael Delprete becomes city councilman?
Well, decisions. I will make decisive decisions to get results. Okay, so in business, when it comes to running a business, I have responsibility. Such as for staff, employees, members, or customers, whatever it may be, and you got to run on a budget, right? You got to be responsible, you got to be accountable, you got to be transparent to everyone involved, right? So that's what you'll get from me coming into the city hall, right? So I'm going to bring that attitude. If I don't get results, if I don't take responsibility for what I do or whatever I stand behind, it will fall apart, right? If I don't stay on budget and the staff loses their job, right? Or I don't have a business anymore. I never had the luxury of asking for someone to send me money or to save my business or anything, right? So it is what it is. So I want to bring that attitude to City Hall and treat the budget. I really do think any issues we have do stem from the budget.
The budget. So you want to audit the budget?
Yes, I want to get in the weeds. Yeah. I'm excited, right? Like I want to see what is in here. What can I, as entrepreneurs, you're always a problem solver. Like how can I fix it, right? And like I said, you do your best. And I think for 20 years of being an entrepreneur and solving problems and figuring things out and failing more than you succeed, like you build up a pretty good experience base. So I will be bringing that to the table.
Well, that sounds good because I think that's exactly what we need. And when I talk to constituents out there in Phoenix, there's definitely a growing sentiment that there's a lot of wasteful spending going on in the city of Phoenix. And we just raised taxes, sales tax 22% without voter approval, the first time they've ever done that in the history of Phoenix. And then they want to guilt trip the public, saying that it's to support fire and police. But we've had these issues for 10 years. They've spent $400 million in federal funding since 2021, and now it seems that those short-term funds have run out to set up these permanent programs, and the residents of Phoenix are footing the bill. So it's really reassuring to hear someone like you saying, I'm going to come in, I'm going to be a problem solver, and one of my main focuses is the budget in the city of Phoenix.
Yeah, and I could easily say, like, through the years of just being in business, I've come to learn, like, what happens a lot. People always ask in the business world, what's your kryptonite, or like, what's your superpower, or whatever it is, right? And I always like, I don't know, I wonder what that is. And I truly found out, man, it's to serve. Like, literally, I like helping people reach their goals before mine. You know what I mean? Like, that is my goal, to help more people. And I think that's how Azria has been able to grow and thrive within Arizona, our real estate community. And I know I could just, that experience and that energy and God, like, it keeps giving me opportunities to lead bigger groups at a time over my life. So it's like, I know I could bring that servant attitude to the city of Phoenix.
So are you a Christian? You believe in God?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yes, I am.
Cool.
God-fearing man.
So you're running for Phoenix City Council in District 6. Can you kind of talk to us about what led you to run and what's Take Back Phoenix?
Well, what led me to run is kind of what I just said about just wanting to serve, right? That's first and foremost. Seeing the changes in the neighborhoods that I live in, right? Seeing that's also part of wanting to go in. Another part, so that's two different levels. Another level is working with, at the association, I work with government officials on rules and regulations that may affect real estate. And I could see the pressure on our business. So with all that bundled up, I just felt that I wanted, if you want change, you got to take action. You got to do something. We got to speak up about it, right? So that was a part of it. And then obviously I had you on our podcast when you were running for mayor, to inform our members, so everyone could have a fair shot of know what's out there and who's out there. Like I said, it's all about education. And then we got to know each other. And yeah, you're talking about the city council, and I was just like, something in the back of my mind I always wanted to do, or I felt like I always wanted to do, just had my own limiting beliefs of like, hey, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a politician, so it's like, can I do that? So thanks to you, you inspired me to do this and join Take Back Phoenix. To me, it's, right now it's a group of people that want to make change, because we're all dads and regular people that work 9 to 5 in our neighborhood and want our neighbors to do well, want our families to do well. And we're starting to see those, how should I say, it's like Los Angeles, Seattle, New York type things happening in Phoenix, although I do believe we all grow and evolve. And we jokingly say, hey, we don't want Arizona to turn into California, right? And when people come from California, they bring those, they vote the same way, but they want to live like they're in Arizona. But bigger part of that is who's putting the things out there for them to vote on?
Right.
That's going to be things that we do, right? So we need more people like us in these seats, that care about the community and don't want these policies that we've talked about in this episode that change things and make us turn into these other type of cities that I truly don't think Phoenicians want.
No, that's a great answer. And, I'll just add my own little tip to that, right? I talk about this when I go to events, we're never going to fix what's on the inside unless we take people from the outside. And that's the way I look at what Take Back Phoenix is. Yeah. We are 4 regular outsiders. We don't have friends that are on the city council. We're not zoning attorneys connected with staff in the city of Phoenix. We're just fathers that live in Phoenix, and we're fed up with the quality of life that we have. And we believe and we want that, to get on the city council to make Phoenix a great place to live for everyone. And, I can't thank you enough for having me on your podcast when I ran for mayor, because most of the mainstream media wouldn't give me the time of day. One, because I was just some nobody part-time Uber driver that came out of nowhere. And the other reason is because I'm a Republican, and a lot of them are Democrats. But you gave me an opportunity to come on, and you gave me a great audience. I think we had like a couple thousand views on the podcast, and then you had me for a follow-up after the election. And I'm a Christian myself, and I really believe that this is, divine intervention. I couldn't cook up a better candidate than you, man. I mean, you're a great person. You have a great heart. If I don't end up elected and you do, I'll be just as happy, because at the end of the day, it's knowing that we just have real representatives that really look out for the interest of the people of Phoenix, and that's exactly what you are. And so I do want to give you an opportunity. We've talked about that you do have a podcast, so if you just want to tell them what is your podcast, how can people tune in if they want to hear more about Mike?
Yeah, once again, my podcast is called The Azria Show, so it's part of the Arizona Real Estate Investors Association. Drops on all podcast platforms every Friday at 8 a.m. So if you're interested in learning real estate, or you are in real estate, it's everything we talk about, from agents to investing to developing to you name it, man. Everything in real estate we cover.
Awesome. Well, it's just been an absolute pleasure. It's been very insightful. I mean, your expertise is, obviously, it's obvious, right? Just talking to you, you know a lot about the housing industry. I'm super excited about you becoming a member on the city council, because I really think that you can put a dent in the affordable housing issues in our city. And ultimately, we just need good people that are going to make good decisions. It's been a great podcast. Thank you for coming on, Mike.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
Take care.